Ethan, today I take back everything you stole from me. My name is Lucas Bennett, 43 years old, senior sales director at Bennett Auto, a family business my father built from nothing in Reno. For 18 years, I'd helped run this place, trained every salesperson, knew every customer who walked through those doors. Never missed sales targets, never caused trouble. But that morning, my world burned. Ethan, my brother, had planned this betrayal for months, and I was about to make him regret it. "Your sales approach is too soft," Ethan said, waving me off while security collected my things. It was Tuesday morning. The dealership hadn't even opened yet. Ethan, my younger brother by 5 years, stood behind what used to be my father's desk. 4 days into being the new owner, and already he'd redecorated. The fishing photos were gone. The old leather chair replaced with something that looked like it belonged on a spaceship. "Times are changing, Lucas. Dad's approach doesn't work anymore. We need aggressive numbers, not relationships." I clenched my fists, his words cutting deeper than I'd let show. "You think relationships built this place?" I shot back. "They're why we're still here." Ethan smirked, leaning back. "Keep dreaming, Lucas. This is my show now." I didn't argue further. Didn't see the point. Just watched as Tom from security, a guy whose daughter I helped get her first car last fall, awkwardly packed up my desk items into a cardboard box. "You'll get 3-month severance," Ethan continued, not looking up from his computer. Professional courtesy from my brother in the business our father built together." "Courtesy," I said, voice low. "You call this courtesy after 18 years? He didn't flinch, just waved me out. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I took the box from Tom, nodded once, and walked straight out the front doors. 18 years ended in a 12-minute meeting. In the parking lot, I set the box on the hood of my truck and looked back at the dealership sign. Bennett Auto, named after both of us, but now just him. My phone buzzed, a text from Rachel at Summit Motors. "Meeting still on for 1 p.m.? I smiled for the first time that morning. "Definitely," I replied, "just freed up my whole schedule." 4 days earlier, I'd signed the contract with Summit Motors, our biggest supplier, to become their regional distributor for the Mountain Territory. They'd approached me directly after years of working with them, impressed by how I'd built our dealership's reputation. The paperwork was being processed right now. Ethan didn't know. Nobody at the dealership knew. Dad was fishing in Idaho. Unreachable. As I slid into my truck, my phone buzzed again. Ethan's assistant, confirming my termination in writing. I laughed bitterly. He thought this was the end. He had no idea I'd already outmaneuvered him. I pulled out of the lot, glancing at Ethan through the window. He was already interviewing my replacement, some young guy in a shiny suit, gesturing wildly as he talked. Ethan caught my eye through the glass and gave a small, dismissive wave. I waved back. Pleasant as could be. I wondered how long it would take him to realize what was coming. A week, maybe 10 days at most, before he'd need to order inventory, and then he'd learn what too soft really costs. In my rearview mirror, I saw Ethan laugh with the new guy, oblivious to the storm I was about to unleash. My smile widened. This wasn't just revenge. It was justice. Dad started Bennett Auto 38 years ago. A small lot with 12 used cars and a dream. Mom worked the books while he sold cars 7 days a week. I joined straight out of college. Ethan went to business school to learn how to make real money, he'd say. When Ethan finally joined us 9 years ago, Dad was ecstatic. Both sons working the family business, a legacy secured. But Ethan and I were different from the start. I learned the business from the ground up, washing cars, answering phones, understanding the mechanics. Ethan jumped straight to management, full of theories about optimization and profit margins. "Customers aren't friends, Lucas," he'd tell me. "They're transactions." But that wasn't how Dad built this place. We had customers whose children and grandchildren bought their cars from us. When people walked in, I knew their names, their kids' names, what they did for work that mattered. "You're wasting time on small talk," Ethan sneered once, catching me chatting with a repeat customer. "I'm building loyalty," I replied. He rolled his eyes. "Loyalty doesn't pay the bills." How wrong he was. Dad never took sides between us. Different styles for different customers, he'd say, trying to keep peace. but I saw the slow tension building. Ethan wanted changes. Faster turnover, more pressure tactics, less follow-up service. At a staff meeting last spring, he pitched slashing service packages to cut costs. I pushed back hard. "You'll lose half our base," I warned. He scoffed, turning to Dad. "Tell him I'm right." Dad stayed silent, but his eyes lingered on me, conflicted. The first real crack appeared last Thanksgiving. Dad mentioned retirement for the first time. He turned 67, and his back was giving him trouble. "I've been thinking about the future of the dealership," he said over dinner at his house. I expected him to lay out a partnership between Ethan and me. Instead, he said, "Ethan has some good ideas about modernizing efficiency." Ethan smirked at me across the table. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "You're really handing it all to him?" I asked Dad later, alone in the kitchen. He sighed. "Ethan's got vision, Lucas. You're the heart, but he's the head." Those words haunted me for months. In January, Dad signed the ownership transfer papers. Ethan would take over in July. I'd remain senior sales director. That was the plan. Dad trusted Ethan would keep me on, respect my experience. I noticed the shifts immediately after. My sales team reassigned, my office moved to a smaller space, access to supplier accounts restricted. "Just streamlining communications," Ethan explained when I asked. "Streamlining or boxing me out?" I confronted him one evening. He shrugged, smug. "If you can't keep up, that's on you." His arrogance fueled my resolve. Then last month, representatives from Summit Motors came to the dealership. They were our biggest supplier. We moved more of their vehicles than any other dealership in the region. They wanted to discuss reorganizing their distribution model. Ethan was busy with the bank, so I took the meeting alone. That's when they made their offer to me personally, not to Bennett Auto, but to me. "We value relationships, Lucas. Always have," said Karen Walsh, their VP of sales. I told them I'd think about it. A week later, Dad handed Ethan the keys and flew to Idaho for a long fishing trip. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. I met Karen at a coffee shop downtown, away from the dealership. She slid the distributor contract across the table. "Regional, exclusive for the Mountain Territory." She said, "You'd control allocation to 15 dealerships, including Bennett Auto. Most of our top models go through you first." I stared at the papers. The offer was incredible. Better money, better hours, my own small team. But it meant leaving the family business, walking away from what Dad built. "Why me?" I asked. Karen leaned back. "Dealerships come and go, Lucas, but relationships are what keep this industry moving. You've built more solid connections with customers and partners than anyone else in our network. That's what we want." She paused, eyeing me. "We also know Ethan's plans. He's trouble. You're our safeguard." Her words lit a fire in me. I took the papers home, didn't sign right away, spent the weekend thinking about Dad, about Ethan, about 18 years of my life. On Thursday, I overheard Ethan in his office on a call. "We'll clean house once Dad's completely out of the picture," he was saying. "New sales team, new approach, none of that hand-holding crap Lucas does." He laughed. "Lucas is fine with customers, but he's behind the times, too much like Dad. Once the transition period is done, we'll restructure." I stood there, papers in hand. I'd been bringing him the monthly sales figures. He hadn't seen me. Everything went quiet in my head. 18 years, every day, every weekend, every holiday season, working to build this place. And Ethan was just waiting for the right moment to push me out. I gripped the papers so hard they crumpled. "You'll pay for this," I whispered to myself, resolve hardening like steel. I walked away without a sound, went back to my office, and signed the Summit contract that same afternoon. I scanned and emailed it to Karen directly. "I'm in," I wrote. Karen called me immediately. "Glad to hear it. When can you start? Give me a week to tie things up at Bennett." I didn't need a week. I needed 4 days. Just enough time for the paperwork to process and my distributor credentials to activate in their system. Just enough time to quietly back up my customer files and contact lists. I knew Ethan would fire me. The only question was when. Tuesday morning answered that question. After leaving the dealership, I drove straight to my meeting with Summit. Karen had an office ready for me, nothing fancy but mine. A team of 3 people who handled logistics and scheduling. A territory map on the wall with pins marking every dealership under my supervision. Bennett Auto was the largest pin on that map. Karen ran me through the ordering system, showed me how allocations worked, how to prioritize inventory flow to different dealerships. I had complete control over who got what vehicles, when they got them, and at what wholesale price within our margin guidelines. "It'll take a few days to get comfortable with it all," Karen said. I nodded, studying the system. "Take your time," she added, "no rush." But there was a clarity in me now, a cold, quiet focus I hadn't felt before. "I'm a quick learner," I replied. "You're not just learning," Karen said, smiling. "You're rewriting the game. Ethan won't know what hit him." 1 week passed. I spent it learning Summit systems, meeting my territory dealerships by phone, and setting up my new office. I kept my phone close, waiting for the call I knew would come. On Monday afternoon, my phone rang. Bennett Auto's main number. "Lucas speaking." "Lucas, it's Natalie from accounting." Her voice was hushed. "Ethan's losing it. We can't get any inventory confirmed. The system keeps flagging our orders for review." I leaned back in my chair. "That sounds like a supplier issue. That's why I'm calling. Ethan tried reaching out to Summit, but they're giving him the runaround since you always handled them before." "I don't work there anymore, Natalie." Silence then. "I know, but we've got customers waiting. The showroom's half empty." I felt a twinge of sympathy. Not for Ethan, but for the team. Good people who depended on those sales. "Tell Ethan to follow the proper channels," I said. "I'm sure it'll work itself out." "He's screaming at everyone," Natalie whispered. "Says you sabotaged him." I chuckled. "Let him think that. He'll learn soon enough." 3 hours later, Ethan called directly. I let it go to voicemail. His message was what I expected. Demands, not requests. Said I must have messed something up in the ordering system before I left. Said I needed to fix it. I waited until the next morning to call back. "Bennett Auto, this is Ethan." "Ethan, it's Lucas. Got your message." "About damn time. We need 20 vehicles by Thursday. The system's blocking everything." I kept my tone professional. "Have you spoken with your Summit representative?" "They keep redirecting me, something about a new distributor approval process." "I don't have time for this. Just tell me what you did to our account." "I didn't do anything to your account, Ethan." "Then why did this start happening right after you left?" I paused, letting the silence stretch. "Maybe," I finally said, "you should ask for the regional distributor. That's what I'm trying to do." Nobody will give me a straight answer about who's handling our territory now. I could almost see him pacing the office, running his hand through his hair like he always did when frustrated. "It's me, Ethan." The line went quiet. "What are you talking about?" "I'm Summit's new mountain regional distributor. All inventory allocations for your territory go through my approval now." Another long silence. "That's not possible. You can't just..." "I didn't just anything. Summit approached me last month. They value relationships, always have." I heard him breathing, processing what this meant. "So what? You're holding our inventory hostage? That's illegal. I'll call Dad." "It's not illegal. It's business. I'm following Summit standard allocation procedures, and Dad's unreachable." "You're pathetic," Ethan spat. "This is your petty revenge." I leaned forward, voice sharp. "Petty? You fired me, Ethan. You betrayed Dad's legacy. This is me taking back what's mine." "This is because I fired you. Grow up, Lucas." "No, this is because I'm doing my new job. Your dealership will get its allocation based on the same criteria as everyone else in my territory. No special treatment." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means your first big inventory order as owner just got flagged for review. Standard procedure for new ownership. I'll need to assess your dealership status in the territory." "How long will that take?" Tension edged his voice. I glanced at the calendar on my wall. 10 days, maybe 2 weeks for most new owners. 2 weeks? We'll have an empty lot by then. "That's the process, Ethan." He lowered his voice, trying a different approach. "Look, Lucas, I know you're upset, but this is family. Dad built this place for both of us." "I remember." I kept my voice even. "But like you said, times are changing. Your sales approach was too aggressive, not relationship-focused enough. You son of a..." "I'll review your application personally. Have a good day, Ethan." I hung up and stared out the window of my new office. I didn't feel the satisfaction I'd expected, just a hollow sense of something broken that couldn't be fixed. But deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. Ethan would fight back, and I was ready. My phone immediately rang again. Ethan. I declined the call. Then it rang once more. Dad's number. This was going to get complicated. Lucas, it's Dad. What the hell is going on? Ethan says you're blocking inventory. I closed my eyes, phone pressed to my ear. I hadn't expected Ethan to reach him in Idaho. I'm not blocking anything, Dad. I'm working for Summit Motors now. Ethan fired me last week. A long pause. He what? First day as owner, said my sales approach was too soft. Had security walk me out. Dad's breathing changed. He told me you quit. Said you got a better offer and just walked away. The betrayal stung all over again. Even now, Ethan was lying. Dad, I've got the termination paperwork. 3-month severance. Professional courtesy, he called it. Dad went quiet again, and I could picture him sitting on the porch of his fishing cabin, trying to make sense of his son's falling out. I trusted him, he said, voice heavy. I thought he'd honor you. I swallowed hard. So did I. And now you're with Summit. I'm their Mountain Regional distributor. All dealership allocations go through me, including ours. Yes, Dad sighed. So you're getting back at him. I'm doing my job, I said, same as I'd told Ethan. His order was flagged for review. Standard procedure for new ownership, Lucas. Dad's voice carried that familiar weight of disappointment. This is the business I built for both of you. I know, Dad. I gave it 18 years. And now what? You two tear it apart? I stood up, walked to the window of my office. I didn't start this, but you're finishing it. I stopped, forcing down the anger and hurt. I'm just trying to move forward. By choking your brother's inventory, I never said I wouldn't approve his order, but you will delay it. Not a question. I didn't answer. I'm coming home, Dad said. This needs to be fixed. There's nothing to fix, Dad. I have a new job. Ethan has what he wants. Complete control of Bennett Auto. Clearly not complete control, Dad muttered. I'll be there tomorrow. Don't do anything until we talk. He hung up. I set my phone down and leaned against the window, watching traffic below. Dad would be disappointed, but he didn't know everything. He didn't know that Ethan had planned to fire me all along. Erin knocked on my office door, then entered. Everything okay? Family stuff? I said. She nodded. I heard Ethan Bennett's been calling our main office demanding expedited service. He would. Karen closed the door. Lucas, when we brought you on, we knew this might be awkward, but we also know loyalty goes both ways. I turned to face her. There's something I didn't tell you, Karen continued. Your brother approached us 4 months ago, wanted to change suppliers once he took over. Said our prices were too high, our delivery too slow. I felt my stomach drop. He was going to drop Summit. He was shopping around aggressively. Told us if we couldn't beat competitor pricing by 18%, he'd switch the entire dealership inventory to Horizon Automotive. Horizon, Summit's biggest competitor, known for cheaper vehicles with lower quality and terrible service. He wouldn't, I said, but even as the words left my mouth, I knew he would. It fit perfectly with everything else. He showed me quotes, Karen said. He was ready to gut your father's legacy. My jaw tightened. Why didn't you tell me? She shrugged. We needed you on our side first. Karen shrugged. We've seen it before. New owners come in, want to make their mark, cut costs wherever they can. Dad would never have approved that. Bennett has been with Summit since the beginning. Well, Dad wasn't going to be in charge anymore, Karen said. That's why we approached you. We value the relationship your father built. We want to keep it in the family, just the right side of the family. I sat down slowly, processing what this meant. Ethan hadn't just betrayed me. He'd planned to dismantle everything Dad valued about the business. The quality, the reputation, the partnerships built over decades. I didn't know, I said finally. Now you do. Karen headed for the door, then paused. For what it's worth, your brother's application is still under review. How long that takes is entirely up to you. She left, closing the door behind her. I stared at my computer screen at Ethan's pending order. My finger hovered over the keyboard. Dad would be here tomorrow, expecting a resolution, but now I understood what was really at stake. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing Dad's face when he discovered the full truth. Not just about me and Ethan, but about what Ethan planned to do with his legacy. At 4 a.m., I gave up on sleep, drove to the office, and started making calls. East Coast dealers were already open. I checked allocation records, order histories, relationship notes. By 6 a.m, I had what I needed: a complete picture of Summit's territory operations and exactly where Bennett Auto fit in. I also found Ethan's correspondence with Horizon, time-stamped months before Dad's retirement. He'd been plotting while smiling at family dinners. The betrayal burned hotter. Dad texted that his flight would land at 10 o'clock. I told him to meet me at noon at Murphy's Grill, neutral territory, away from both Ethan and my new office. At 8 a.m, I called Natalie from accounting. "Lucas, thank God. Ethan's been impossible. The showroom's almost empty. I need something from you," I said. "The last 4 years of sales records and customer satisfaction surveys. Can you email them to my personal account?" She hesitated. "Ethan's locked down all the data. Says it's proprietary now." "Natalie, you've been there 14 years. You know what Dad built. I'm trying to preserve that." A pause. "Give me an hour." By 9, I had spreadsheets showing exactly what I'd suspected. Our highest customer satisfaction and return business came from the models that would be dropped under Ethan's new supplier plan. I also found a memo Ethan sent to staff, mocking my outdated methods. He'd been undermining me openly. At 11:30, I printed everything and drove to Murphy's. Dad was already there, looking tired and older than when I'd last seen him. We ordered coffee, but neither of us touched it. "Your brother tells a different story," Dad began. I figured he would. I slid the termination paperwork across the table. Dad read it, his face darkening. "This doesn't sound like Ethan." I pushed over Natalie's email with the Horizon Automotive quotes Ethan had requested. Dad scanned them, confused. "What am I looking at?" Ethan's plan to switch suppliers from Summit to Horizon, cut costs, boost short-term profits. Dad's hands tightened around the papers. "These are dated before I signed over ownership." He's been planning this for months. "Ethan, fire me, switch suppliers, restructure everything. But Horizon makes cheaper cars with half the warranty coverage and terrible service. Everything you avoided your whole career." Dad set the papers down, rubbed his eyes. "I don't understand. Why would he do this? Quarterly profits, fast numbers. Everything looks great on paper for a year or two. Enough time to build his reputation as a turnaround artist. Then he sells the dealership to a chain and moves on." Dad stared at me. "Sells Bennett Auto." I nodded. "That's my guess. Look at the financing inquiries." The last page showed requests for business valuation from 4 auto group conglomerates. Dad fell silent, processing everything. "He lied to my face," Dad said, voice breaking. "I gave him everything." I reached across the table. "We can still save it." Finally, he looked up. "And now you're at Summit." "They came to me, Dad. They knew what Ethan was planning." "So what now? You punish him by strangling the business I built?" That stung, but I was ready for it. I pulled out another folder, my real plan. "I'm not punishing anyone. I'm saving what you built." I opened the folder, showing him the proposal I'd stayed up all night preparing. Bennett Auto becomes a premium Summit dealership, exclusive models, priority allocation, specialized service packages. Everything Ethan fought against, but with higher margins and better customer retention. Dad studied the numbers. "These projections are real. I've been tracking the data for years. Our highest profit customers are the ones who came back because of relationships, not because of the lowest price tag." "Ethan won't accept this." "No, I agreed. He won't." Dad looked up. "Then what's the point?" "The point is you still own the property, Dad. The building, the lot. Ethan only owns the business." Understanding dawned in Dad's eyes. "You want me to evict my own son? I want you to give him a choice. Run Bennett Auto the right way, our way, or sell his share of the business back to us. He keeps his dealer license. We keep the Bennett name and reputation. Us? You and me?" I held his gaze. "Partners." Dad leaned back, observing me like he'd never seen me before. "You've been planning this?" he said, almost proud. I nodded. "Since the moment he betrayed us. And if I don't agree, then I'll approve Ethan's current inventory order today, step back, and let him run the business how he wants. Your choice." Dad shook his head slowly. Your brother really did underestimate you. I didn't reply, just waited. Finally, Dad reached for his phone. I need to make a call. To Ethan. No. Dad dialed, then waited. Laura, it's George Bennett. I need you to pull the property lease for the dealership. Yes. Today. He looked at me as he spoke. I think it's time to renegotiate some terms with the current tenant. You're sure? He asked me, phone still in hand. I've never been more sure, I said, voice steady. 3 days later, Ethan, Dad, and I sat in the dealership conference room with Laura, Dad's longtime attorney. None of us spoke as she laid out 3 documents on the table. Option 1, she said, sliding the first document toward Ethan. You continue as owner of Bennett Auto, but under a new lease agreement with specific operational requirements, including maintaining Summit Motors as your exclusive supplier. Ethan's jaw tightened. He didn't touch the paper. Option 2. She pushed the second document forward. You sell your ownership stake back to your father and brother at fair market value, minus recent losses due to inventory disruption. Ethan glared at me. This is extortion. This is business, I replied, echoing his words from before. You set me up, he hissed. You planned every step. I met his gaze. You gave me no choice. Option 3, Laura continued unruffled. You maintain ownership but relocate the business. George will terminate your lease of the current property, effective in 45 days. Ethan looked at Dad. You'd really do this to me, your own son? Dad met his gaze. You fired your brother without calling me. You lied about it. You planned to dismantle everything I built over 38 years. So yes, I really would. Ethan stood abruptly, paced the length of the room. This is insane, all because I wanted to modernize, make us competitive. All because you forgot what makes us special, Dad said quietly. The room fell silent. Ethan stared out the window at the half-empty lot. You're both against me, he said, voice cracking. I just wanted to prove myself. Dad's eyes softened, but only for a moment. You proved who you are. Finally, he turned back. How much? Fair market value, I said. You'll walk away with enough to start fresh somewhere else. Ethan laughed bitterly. You planned this all along. No, I replied. I just saw a way forward when you forced my hand. He looked between Dad and me, then down at the second document. Without another word, he picked up a pen and signed. No drama, no shouting, just the scratch of pen on paper, ending one chapter and beginning another. When he finished, he stood and walked out without looking back. I watched him go, expecting relief but feeling only a heavy ache. Victory shouldn't hurt this much. 8 months later, I stood in the showroom of Bennett Auto, now Bennett & Son. The floor was full again, not just with inventory, but with customers. Weekend traffic was steady. Our service department booked 4 weeks out. Dad worked part-time now, mostly greeting old customers and telling stories. He seemed happier, the weight of disappointment lifted, though his eyes sometimes drifted to the past. We hadn't heard from Ethan. Last I knew, he'd moved to Tucson to work for a large dealer group. Karen from Summit stopped by, surveying the refreshed showroom. Looks good, Lucas. Numbers back up. Better than before, I said. Premium models are moving faster than we can get them. Relationships, she nodded. Like I said. Like my dad said, I corrected her. You rebuilt it stronger, she added. I nodded, but the cost lingered in my chest. After Karen left, I walked out to the lot where Dad was showing a young couple their first family vehicle, a mid-sized SUV with all the safety features. I watched as he handed them his card, told them to call him directly with any questions, even on his personal line. Some things never changed, and shouldn't. That evening, as we closed up, Dad lingered in the showroom, looking at the new sign above the entrance. You know, he said, I always thought it would be Bennett & Son someday. I didn't reply. I was wrong about Ethan, he continued. But I was wrong about you too. How's that? I thought your way was the soft approach. Turns out it was the strong one all along. He paused, voice quieter. I should have seen it sooner. I shrugged. You see it now. We locked up and walked to our cars. As Dad reached his, he paused. You could have destroyed him, you know. Cut off his inventory completely? Wouldn't have been right. Dad nodded. That's why you're here and he's not. I watched him drive away, then looked back at the dealership, our dealership, rebuilt on trust, not vengeance. But as I stood alone under the neon sign, the silence pressed in. The victory was real, but so was the cost. Ethan was gone, and with him, a piece of our family we'd never get back. I thought of Dad's tired eyes, the weight he still carried. Success hadn't erased the scars, it just made them easier to bear. I climbed into my truck, the engine's hum filling the quiet. Tomorrow, I'd keep building, keep fighting, not for revenge, but for the people who believed in us. That was enough. It had to be.